All right, we are on. Welcome to another episode, I guess, of the Mouth Breathing Awareness Month campaign. My name is Sarah Hornsby, and I am doing an awareness campaign basically to bring attention to mouth breathing, because mouth breathing is such a common symptom. It's so common, we don't even think of it as like not normal. But if people are mouth breathing, then they also have myofunctional symptoms. And they also are more likely to have bigger problems like sleep apnea and TMJ problems and pain and all sorts of other stuff. So I am interviewing my amazing MyoMentor graduates, and I have Chelle here today to share her story, because I really think if we can share our stories as healthcare providers, then maybe more patients will be able to get help. So Chelle lives in, and Chelle, your last name is Wegand. So Chelle Wegand lives in Battleground, Washington, which is near Vancouver, Washington, so the southern part of the state. And she just got into myofunctional therapy. Like, you literally just saw your first patient today, which is really exciting, right?
I did.
So maybe let's just start off. Why don't you talk about your background and how you got into all this stuff, and then tell the story that you want to share. I think you're going to talk about your boys today, right?
Yes, I
am. Exciting.
So my journey with dentistry started years and years ago. I became a dental assistant. And as a dental assistant, my amazing doctor in Redlands, California, he worked a lot with TMJ issues, and he was just getting into sleep apnea issues, which was groundbreaking at the time. Groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It was in like 2000, 2001.
Oh.
And I clenched my teeth. And I had absolutely no idea why. I'm like, what is wrong? I really don't feel that stressed. He's like, oh, here, have a night guard. So that was kind of the Band-Aid back then, oh, here. And it did help. But I ended up sleeping with my mouth open and drooling everywhere. I went into dental hygiene school, and I completely started clenching even more, and I clenched right through my night guard. Wow. Because it's stressful. Yeah. And I hadn't heard anything about myofunctional therapy at all, really. I think we glossed over it in dental hygiene school.
If it was even mentioned, I would have been super impressed, because I mean, it's not common, I wouldn't say.
Because it was back in 2004 when I started, and I don't remember it at all. That's why when I stumbled across, all of your website and everything, I was like, oh, hey, that's pretty cool. What is this? So as a dental hygienist, a new dental hygienist, I had no idea. So here I am with my night guard. I have no idea. So I didn't know I had any symptoms. So I think I found out things about myofunctional therapy just looking at CE courses.
Yeah, that was what I did too. I had no clue that any of it related to me. I was just like, I need CE, and that was it.
And I didn't apply any of it to myself. I started applying it to my kids to begin with. I was like, oh, hey, son number 1 has that symptom. Ooh, son number 2 has this symptom. And then, oh, my husband has this symptom. I wasn't thinking about myself at all.
That's so funny. Yeah.
It is. And you don't think about yourself until I actually got into your course. And I'm like, ooh, that's me. Ooh, I can't do that exercise. Ooh, I have a tongue tie. What?
No, so you're explaining it so well. I feel like that's so many people's journey, like.
So it's been just eye-opening. It's been really cool. My oldest son and I actually had our tongue ties released together.
Really?
So we've been going through all of that together. It's actually been really cool that we can kind of share that.
Yeah, well, I know that was one of the stories that we had talked about before. So why don't you start with him and kind of talk about the symptoms you noticed, and then even where you are today.
So my oldest son, he is 10 years old now. He, when he was born, he had a frenectomy.
Okay, so they noticed it.
Because I couldn't breastfeed. Yeah. I had just the hardest time with him. And I thought after the frenectomy it would get better. It never did. So, and then as he grew, he was about 2, and I was like, well, why isn't he really talking yet? I took him to a speech therapist, and they're like, oh, well, it's just his own timetable. It'll be fine. Because I don't think really anybody thought about looking at the tongue. So as he grew and finally started talking, it was around 2.5 or 3, I noticed he had a bit of a speech impediment.
Okay, what did you hear? Like, what did it?
He can't say his R's. He has a really difficult time enunciating some of his letters. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cute,
Yeah, when they're 3.
Exactly. But as he got older, it became a problem, and he was having to explain, like, think of other words to explain what he can't say.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it really hit home when his 3rd grade teacher talked to me about, I think you really need to address this, because in the future, I think he's going to have a really difficult time expressing himself.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I went into your course, it was for my son, because he was having a difficult time, and kids made fun of him. Why do you say it like that? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
that's all I can say.
yeah.
Well, I love that you're bringing this up, because you're actually the first interview to connect myofunctional issues and speech issues. And I think, this is where all of us we just don't know what we don't know. And in the speech world, a lot of speech pathologists, just like in the dental world, a lot of dentists and hygienists don't know about this functional side of things. So many speech pathologists don't look for tongue ties and don't realize that there can be a physical problem with the tongue that impacts speech. And the most common sound for kids who are tongue-tied is they have trouble with R. And I see it time and time again. Kids that I've worked with have been in speech therapy for years, still can't say R, and they're super tongue-tied. And no one has looked. And again, it's not to blame those speech pathologists. It's just, I just think it shows, like, we all need to be looking at these things, because there was one point as a hygienist, I wasn't looking. So, I mean, so talk about, was he in speech therapy? Like, after the 3rd grade teacher mentioned that, then what happened?
So we went to a speech therapist, and she did the evaluation and everything. And she said, this is something he will grow out of.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I thought was interesting too. I was like, okay, but he's not really growing out of it.
Especially since the teacher was concerned, because usually, like, teachers know, what's normal for kids at that age group. And
Exactly. So nothing helped. So when I looked into your course, I think I saw that was one of the symptoms, and I'm like, light bulb.
Yeah.
What? So he's the reason I really pursued it.
Interesting. Okay. And so when you started to learn to identify tongue ties, did you look at his and was it pretty bad? Like, was it obvious?
It wasn't super obvious. That's what I think, that's why people didn't notice. But I went through all of these different exercises, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't lift his tongue to the roof of his mouth when his mouth was open. He couldn't do a lot. I'm like, oh, well, there it is.
Yeah.
And the same thing with me. It's doing the exercises that made me realize, oh, I do have a tongue tie.
Interesting. Now, did either his tongue tie or your tongue tie lead to mouth breathing? It doesn't always, but it can.
For him, at night. He doesn't do it during the day.
That's good. I mean, better.
Yes. It's something.
Something, I mean.
But yes, and he snores. So,
okay.
And as a kid, it's like, oh, so cute. They're snoring.
No.
And then you realize it's not so cute. You're like, oh, they can't breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you're funny.
So yeah, I educating myself has really, really helped.
Good. You're awesome.
It helped me.
Yeah. So you guys had your tongue tie released. Where did you guys go? Did you drive up to Seattle or?
It was here locally. We
Okay.
had the dentist that I'm working for do it.
Awesome. Well, that's good.
Yes, which
Yeah.
helped a lot.
And so did you notice any changes in speech? Or are you still working through some of the
I'm
myofunctional
still,
exercises?
yes, I'm working through the exercises. It's just re-educating
Totally.
the
Yeah.
muscles and everything because it's been so long with him.
Yeah.
So
Oh, for sure.
it's going to be a continuous thing, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let me know if you want to do like a check-in session. I'm happy to kind of
oh, I
help
would
and
love
maybe
that.
give some input on, because the speech stuff can be complicated. And
Yes.
I think, yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk more about it if you want.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So what about your other son? You mentioned him too.
Yes, my youngest son is a thumb sucker.
Oh,
I
okay.
have an ultrasound picture of him sucking his thumb in utero. And I just, if I would have known how long he'd be sucking his thumb, I'd be like, oh, that's not so cute.
Oh,
So,
yeah, it's definitely correlated with tongue ties,
yes.
and it can lead to a lot of the muscle changes, right? When the
Yes.
thumb's in there, now the lips don't close and the tongue goes
Hmm.
down and all
And
those
it
myofunctional
shoves his
problems.
palate up. You can tell it's narrowed his jaw. And
Okay.
breastfeeding him hurts so badly.
Oh no.
I mean, for the first 6 weeks, I just wanted to cry every time he wanted to eat. I'm like, no.
No, yeah. I've heard
But
other moms say that too, man. And
it,
it's like you feel so guilty, like I don't want to feed my baby because it
yeah.
hurts, but like, yeah.
So yeah, you're just crying for all kinds of reasons, the mom
Mhm.
guilt and the
Yeah,
pain. And
totally.
so we're working through some habit elimination with him. It's gotten better.
Okay,
So he still does
good.
it, but
Yeah. What about other symptoms for him? Do you notice mouth breathing? I mean, I'm assuming he might have a little bit of a tongue tie too, but have
he,
you noticed that?
he has a little bit. He did not have as much as Gavin. Um,
Okay.
my oldest son. Um, but he did not need a tongue tie. Didn't need a tongue tie. He didn't need a release. He can do all the exercises, and it was interesting because he was the one that I thought would have the tongue tie.
Yeah, that is
His
interesting.
muscles, like he's got very low muscle tone.
Mm.
So, and you can tell that his growth isn't in his jaws. It's not the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, so yeah, he's
So,
probably got to get into the orthodontist and
mhm.
yeah, do the therapy too, of course.
Yes,
Do you notice mouth breathing for him or snoring or any of those type of symptoms?
snoring and mouth breathing at night.
Okay,
Because
okay.
I watch them both like a hawk to
Yeah.
see if their lips. I'm like, are you? Yeah. But he's starting to shove his permanent front teeth, like one out in front of the other. And I'm like, oh no. So
No, yeah.
sometimes he has a snaggle tooth. I'm like, are your lips open? No, it's just your tooth shoving out. No, you're fine.
Well, I'm glad you know these things because now you can actually start to help your kids and go down the right path. A lot of parents just don't know. So, you know, at least knowledge is power. And
Yeah,
that's the good
it
thing in all
is.
this. Yeah. What about yourself? I mean, I know you said you have the tongue tie, you had it released. You've been
Yes.
going through the therapy too.
I have TMJ issues. Have
Okay.
for years. And my husband has TMJ issues and sleep apnea. So we are
Yeah.
just a family of dysfunction. And
But it's an example of how common this stuff really is. I mean,
yes,
it's often everyone in the family because if mom has it and dad has it, guess who's guaranteed to have it, you know, the kids.
exactly. And then once you know the symptoms, you see it everywhere. You're like, oh, I could help you. I could help you.
I know.
So
Totally.
starting
Um,
starting
yeah,
in the family, I think
good.
that was really my goal. That is what pushed me into doing myofunctional therapy.
Good. And I'm happy you are. What about, so when you had your tongue tie released, did you notice any difference in your clenching as you've been doing these exercises? Have things improved
Yes,
with your TMJ? Okay,
yes. And
cool.
I stopped wearing the night guard actually
Wow.
when I was in your taking your course because you said that could make it worse. It's basically like putting a band-aid on a bigger issue.
Yeah, I
So
mean, for some people, it can make it worse if you have less tongue space. So if
yes,
you're clenching because, you know, you aren't breathing well and your body's in kind of this fight flight response, or you're trying to open up your airway kind of thing, sometimes taking the night guard out and getting the tongue up can definitely help. So
yes,
yeah,
yes.
well,
And
it's good it did for you.
that was the big thing for me. So, and it worked. It really helped.
Good. So are you feeling better now? Like ever since then? I can't remember how long ago you took the class. It's
It
been,
was just the end of 2019, September
yeah. Okay.
2019.
So you just
I started.
finished it. So since the class, you haven't been wearing your night guard and you
I
feel
haven't,
good?
and
Wow.
it has been good. And
Nice.
I think I'm even thinking about it at night. I wake up, I'm like, where's my tongue? Where's my tongue? All right,
Good.
it's up there.
Good. Do you tape your mouth or anything at night?
I don't.
Okay. And do you think it stays closed? Everything's in place?
I think it does, unless I have a cold or something, then I
Mhm.
notice that I'm drooling, but I feel like everything is staying in place.
Nice job. Wow. So you've done so well with yourself, your family, or your kids. What about your husband?
He's going to be my last case because I need to talk him into it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's a common thread. So,
I
but he'll
think
get there, you know, on his own time.
exactly. And I think if he sees the improvements that the kids are making, I think that'll definitely
Good.
help
Well,
him.
no, I mean, this has been so good. Thank you for sharing your story. I mean, you know, from the tongue tie and speech issues to the thumb sucking to the clenching and grinding to the sleep apnea. I mean, your whole family, you can pretty much sum up all of these types of symptoms and the effects it can have, and you know, by talking about all of you guys together. So that's really, it's actually kind of, it's really cool. And I mean, not that I want you guys to have
Right.
those
No,
issues,
I know what you mean.
but it's like a really good story to share, I think. So I think it's great. Well, let's talk about your practice. I know you're just getting started, but it's called Myofunctional Fitness.
Yes.
And I know at some point people will be able to find you online. I'll link whatever you have, whatever contact details you want to give me,
Okay.
email, whatever. I'll provide so that people can get in touch. But is there anything you want to say? Any last words? Any shout outs?
Uh, no, shout out to you, actually.
Oh,
I really appreciate the course. I really appreciate everything that you do to bring awareness to this, because there's so many people that are affected by it and don't even know it. So the more people that you educate about it, the more that we can get the word out as well.
yeah. And I think that helps all of us. You know, it helps the patients. It helps our field grow so that it can be more legit and be
Yes.
recognized by mainstream medicine and dentistry. And I think the more I talk about this, the more you talk about this, the more patients start asking their doctors about this, the more that the word will spread and the field will grow. And I think that will help all of us. So,
Yes.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chelle. I really appreciate your time and your willingness to share. I'll let you get on with your evening, but yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thanks,
All right.
Sarah.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll talk with you later. Bye.
Bye.